Hey everybody, I am Lyndsey Havens. I'm a senior editor at Billboard and a massive music fan, of course, which is why I'm so excited about this panel in particular. We're talking about fandom, but more specifically, how to actually go from being a music fan to being a music professional. And these people know how to do it better than anyone else, so I'm so excited to hear your stories. So let's just go down the line, if you don't mind. Introduce yourself, briefly say how fandom played a role in getting you here, and then I'll take it away.
Hi, my name is Helen Showalter. I'm the Senior Vice President of CrowdSurf, which is a digital marketing company for music. I was big into Warped Tour and wasn't allowed to go. So I would sort of build communities about it online. I was 15 when I got my first worldwide trending topic for a band. And at that point, I was like, maybe this is a real thing. And their manager reached out to me and was like, do you want to do this for real? And then sort of shepherded me in.
So cool. Hi, I'm Claudia Villarreal. I am a co-founder and chief creative officer of FanMade, a company I started with one of my best friends, Olivia Rudensky. Together, we do superfan strategies for major artists, and my background is that I was just a massive One Direction fan. I had a One Direction update account that really opened the doors for me, and I also just tried sneaking in backstage to a show one time and met somebody and started working in live music. So I'll get more into that later. But fandom has truly shaped everything that I am and everything that I do, and I'm really excited to talk about it today.
Hi everyone, my name is Adam Barrera and I am a social media content creator in the music and entertainment space. So I do mostly music commentary on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And I talk a lot about song history, your favorite pop stars, charts, and all of that. And I started this in college when I was looking for a role in the music industry, and I figured it would just be a great way for me to get into that. So I'll get more into that as well, but yeah.
How's it going, guys? I'm Chuka Chase, co-founder of Symphony. We create an artist services platform that allows artists to grow any specific platform or just DSP, streaming service, all from one interface. And my journey in fandom started as a diehard Childish Gambino fan, and was creating a bunch of stuff on Tumblr that he eventually found and started working with him in 2014.
Amazing. Thousands of follow-up questions, but Adam, I really love what you said. I feel like this applies to everyone on this panel, that you were looking for a job. Maybe you weren't finding it, maybe something wasn't clicking. You made your own. And I feel like that's one of the coolest things about both the music industry and just being a fan of music, is that there is that opportunity. So I'd love if you could start, and feel free anyone else to chime in, if you could speak about how being a music fan of all things sort of empowered you to create your own path in this industry.
Definitely, yeah. So as I was saying, I was trying to get a job in the music industry, and that's ultimately why I decided to start pursuing TikTok, which was my initial platform. And basically, I was having such a hard time finding an internship in the industry, was applying to countless positions at record labels, and got rejected from, I think, all of them. And this was also during sort of the heat of the pandemic, like late 2020. And so, TikTok was really taking off at that time. And I figured at the start, I figured that TikTok would be a great way for me to get experience using the app and take that experience and put it on my resume and use it in interviews or whatever. So I wasn't really expecting to get a following at first. And then once people started following me, I figured, okay, this would be a great way for me to just stay consistent, and maybe I can do my own thing with this. Maybe I don't have to, work at a label or do that. So that's ultimately why I decided to pursue that.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a similar experience of just like not seeing the opportunity that you wanted in this space, and maybe intentionally or unintentionally creating it on your own?
For me, as I mentioned, I tried sneaking backstage to a One Direction concert, and when that happened, I met somebody who was actually working with them, and he handed me, after a long conversation of like me wanting to meet them, he handed me a working credential. And at the time, I was like, I'm a 17-year-old girl here for a concert. I do not look like a worker. But I started working shows in Vegas specifically, and he kept calling me back, and I kept meeting different managers and different label people and I worked with VIP Nation, and I was like, wait, I want to keep doing more of this. And then I just had more and more questions about who was behind the scenes and like why were decisions being made. And I just started my research. And after a while, I moved out to LA on my own to really pursue it. And I used my live show experience and my update account as like social media experience, and really just started cold emailing and calling anybody that would give me a job. And it's been 8 years now in LA, and I think I've pulled it off. So it's a long journey for sure.
So don't be afraid to break the rules or break in.
Yeah.
Just the best piece of advice so
The
far.
worst thing somebody can say to you is no, and then they will never remember you, and all you have to do is try again. That's
so true.
That's how I went about it. No one ever brings it up that I was like all over the place. I just was, and now I am.
And Juka, in your case, I feel like maybe it was more of a defined role or a space, but you're innovating in it constantly. So could you speak a little bit about that, how if there is more of a clear path, but you want to change it up and do something different within that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I wasn't expecting to just like be in the music industry. I had no idea how it worked. I was in tech. I was building apps and stuff. I think it was really serendipity because Spotify had just launched and people were kind of like confused with like where things were going. And so Donald was just like, I'm an internet meme. This whole thing is becoming internet-y. You're an internet guy. My album is called Because of Internet. Maybe there's like magic here. And I was like, sure, you know? And so it wasn't really necessarily like, all right, like we're going head into the music industry. I'm sure some of y'all can relate to this. I'm an immigrant, so my folks have day one have always been like, yo, stay out of the music industry, stay out of anything fun, go be a doctor, an engineer, and that kind of stuff. So I never really like took it seriously, even when I was in it. Like, you know, we were like, Donald got nominated for a Grammy, and I was still like, had this a little bit of syndrome of like music industry, like, yeah. But I would say, like, I think like the greatest learning out of that was like, the sooner I took it seriously and ignored like all the noise, like it became a lot more rewarding, and I was able to move up in it, kind of like vertically. So yeah, I would definitely say, like, oftentimes serendipity, it like things happen kind of just like, you know, as a result of serendipity. But I feel like you want to like, there's still a route to kind of make things kind of like official. Yeah.
Yeah. What you said about not exactly knowing how the music industry works, like I've worked at Billboard almost 7 years and sometimes same. And I feel like we all have those moments. But I'm curious, like in moments like that, how does fandom, how do you maybe lean into that? And how is it proven to you to be enough? Like to just love music and be a fan can kind of get you to exactly where you all are now.
Well, a lot of that comes from passion, and it's like being a super fan of an artist. Like you're doing it, you're supporting them because you want to, and so you want to be a part of whatever it is that they're creating, and you're hoping to learn more. And hopefully, that curiosity drives you to a place where you find the right outlet and the right, I guess, like step forward. It's like, oh, I could do this maybe, or I could do that. Like the thing with not knowing what to do in the industry is that it's really not until you're in it you see the variety of opportunities that you could have, especially as a fan. And now, like more recently in the past few years, fandom and fan in general has just been taken more seriously now that people recognize the power that a community of people has when they're supporting an artist. And if you're somebody in that community that knows what you want to do and has an idea of what you want to provide back to that community, it really is just like, it's a back and forth, and it's as it always has been between the artist and the fan and the audience. It's really a give and take, and like finding that balance is really important.
Yeah. I was going to offer you my mic too. You can have two if you want.
Just like both of us.
Did anyone else have anything on that?
I would say like being a fan is a huge advantage. Like people, before I like was in the industry, I felt like I had 1,000,001 ideas. I didn't know any of the red tape. I didn't know the rules. I didn't care about them. Now, the deeper I have like this knowledge, you know, I'm always thinking about best practices and stuff like that. And like, you don't want that. Like, so I think like the fans are totally like at an advantage, like creatively, I think like operationally, the way you think about like it coming directly to you, whatever it be, the music, the video, the product, you know, fans definitely have the advantage. And I always try to take myself back to that spot where I didn't care or knew how anything worked, because it totally is an advantage.
It's true.
I actually have sort of a fun flip side of this, because it's not like how's being a fan hurt you in your career?
At times.
At times. I think it's important to talk about that as well, because if I came up here and I was like, everyone took me seriously because I was a fan and cared a lot, that would be an absolute lie. A lot of the time when you come in with that background of like, I care more than anyone, I will do anything for this, it makes you someone that can, you know, the music business, there's the music and then there's a business, and it lets you sort of be othered or taken, sometimes taken advantage of because people know that you're there because you love it and that you'll go the extra mile. So I think it's also about like protecting that feeling you get around like the music industry and knowing that that doesn't belong to anyone but you, no matter what band taught it to you, no matter who the first artist was, no matter who you got to trend whenever the heck you did. That special thing, that those butterflies, they come back, they don't belong to anybody but you.
It's a great point.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because it's funny, like no one that I know of is like a super fan of banking. It's like it's something that's so specific to music is that like you love these artists. We love these artists. We feel like we know them sometimes, which as a journalist can get tricky when you go and interview someone because artists give so much away and you feel like you know them and you've never met them before. So one of the things I'm actually most interested to hear from you all is sort of walking, as you just said, that line between being a super fan and also being a music professional, because I do feel like it can get a bit blurry at times. So what's your best advice? Have you ever encountered that?
Go ahead.
I mean, like being a professional and being a super fan is a real tread to follow. Like it takes, in my opinion, it takes a lot of experience to develop like the confidence to be in front of these artists and really tell them what it is that you know, and then at the same time keep that excitement at your core. And sometimes it can be a little debilitating to an artist if you come in so excited, you're so passionate, you're awestruck by them, and they're just here to like work. And you have to remember that you're also there to work. And that spark that you have, that excitement that you have can come out in other places when you're pitching ideas, when you're brainstorming, when you're getting creative. And it just takes a lot of experience, like to really be in front of these people and know that you're working for a team, not just the artist. Like oftentimes when you're a fan and you're like, oh, I want to work with so-and-so, you think of just so-and-so and you forget that it takes an army of people behind them to really build up their career. And you're hoping to be one of those people. You're not hoping to be besties with the artist. That's not really the goal. The goal is to help them from the perspective that you have that is so genuine and that is so personal. And personally, that's what Fan Made is all about, is like we really channel the excitement that we had when we were fans and we relay that back almost like a translator or a liaison between the fan and the artist and how to really use it to their advantage. And it's something you have to really be mindful of. You definitely like keep yourself excited in some safe spaces, but just recognize that you are doing a job, and it's a really fortunate job to have, and you don't want to mess that up.
Yeah. Adam, I feel like you were going to jump in as well.
For sure, yeah. I'd say I completely agree with that. Definitely to just not have any expectations when going in and meeting people, whether it's an artist or their team. And I didn't realize that before moving to LA, which I moved to LA last August. And before that, I was just living in both Chicago and Florida. So I never really had the opportunity to meet an artist or their team in person. So once I moved to LA and had those opportunities, it was just so different from what I was expecting. So yeah, I would just say to go in it with no expectations, because at the end of the day, that's how you're just going to get the best out of any situation.
Yeah, and my sort of second piggyback on that is to remember why you're here and to remember your own value, because you consider yourself to be a super fan. It tends to you'll tend to automatically put yourself beneath others and not advocate for yourself because you think that your voice isn't worth hearing in a room full of artists, in a room full of creatives. And the longer I worked in music, the stronger my opinions got. And I learned how to be the same person pitching the same ideas no matter who I was in front of. And that took a really long, long time.
Yeah, I think that's important to remember. The idea of being starstruck, to some extent, I still love that part of my career, going into an interview and feeling that. But it's also important to not let that overwhelm me and the job that I'm there to do. But I also wanted to ask you, Helen, because in artist management, I hear it all the time of someone who's just oh, I love this artist so much. I'm just going to work with them, manage them just because I'm a fan. What skills? Exactly. What skills for anyone who's interested in becoming a music manager are actually required in addition to loving that artist and believing in them?
Oh, man. the ability to see an artist as a person and to see an artist as a product and to look at an artist and see like, oh, this is a person who has a mortgage and we are gonna pay that mortgage. So whenever I get really, really excited, I have this one girl, her name's Leanna Firestone. She sends me a song that like makes me want to call my therapist at least once a week. Like, so good. And every time she sends me something, I'm like, you're gonna be rich. You're gonna be the biggest person in the world. You're gonna win every single Grammy and I will die trying. And that's my immediate reaction because I've never had a chill reaction to anything in my entire life, which is why I'm here. And what it took was learning to retool that as we are going to make it so you can retire so comfortably. And then everything after that's gravy. You can want all of the big stuff. I want to be the best music manager I can be, and it drove me freaking crazy. And I got better at it when instead I was like, is everyone around me happy? Do we all like our jobs? Are we all making money? Can we all pay our rents? And became a real caretaker and a leader versus sort of like part of the team.
Yeah, that's important too because, again, music is so fun, but I think it's easy to forget that it's a job too. We all have bills to pay, rents to pay. You need to make a living out of it. So in addition to being music fans, you're all also entrepreneurs. So do you want to spend a little bit of time talking about how a student in the crowd right now can be an entrepreneur themselves and create an opportunity if they're not seeing one to get involved? Do you want to start with Chuka and maybe go down the line?
Yeah, I think the game has changed a lot since at least I started in it. You know, like we were literally running fan Tumblrs and Donald had found us through that way. I think I've seen so much happen since then, and some of these folks up here right next to me have different but similar testimonies around that, and it's really just like initiative. Like I think that's like the common thread is starting a way to bring a community together. Like in the case of Adam, whatever the platform it is, I think there's a massive opportunity there. It's just very easy for an artist to recognize that in a fan, whether it's like a fan page on Instagram or TikTok or you know, now we're starting to see artists really going ham at starting these group chats that are super, you know, deep and having, you know, there's like roles within these group chats, you know, you can't just kind of rely on the artist to drive the conversation. So within there's opportunities for people to become moderators and leaders within the communities. So I think, you know, there's a bunch of different opportunities. I don't want to like sit here and be like, yeah, like go on LinkedIn and find so-and-so manager. But I feel like, yeah, just like initiative and like being active in it for real, definitely goes a long way. It differentiates you against, you know, anyone else. So for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think just the idea of understanding where the community lies, that's so important. And for anybody interested in social media, the number one advice I give is just to not think that it's too late to post on social media, because right now I think it's just the best time, because we live in a world where anything can go viral on a platform, whether it's TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels. And each of those platforms are so different in their algorithms. You know, if one thing does bad on one platform, it could do well on another platform. You know, you'll definitely be able to find your space in any sort of platform that exists online.
When I was first starting in the industry, I had no idea the variety of jobs that were available. And one thing that I really advise people to do is to try out as much as possible. If something piques your interest, if you're curious about how something works, like stage management or touring or even like songwriting or publishing, like whatever it is, if something's calling to you, it's really important to try it out. And the industry really, I think, provides that. There's so many internships. There's so many, people like us who are in the industry who are willing to speak to people like you guys. I think there's a lot of opportunity to like learn and grow and just hear other people's experiences. And that's where you can kind of like, almost like, oh, I thought I was going to like this. Turns out I didn't, but I really like this a lot more. And when you look at an artist team, again, it's a team of people. There's so many different roles that you can have working with said artists that you might not even know exist until you try it out. And so I really recommend just like you're doing your research, being actively involved in the community that is the music industry, going to things like this, reading trade magazines, reading Billboard, like whatever it is, even being on social media and hearing about whatever's going on online. Really immerse yourself in the world, because if this is something that you truly want to be working in, you will be better off the more you know about it. And it's really beneficial in the long run.
I'm not actually an entrepreneur. I work for a company. They hired me out of college, and I've been there for 8 years since.
Boss moves.
I just, I decided I didn't need a bachelor's of science and I needed to hang out with the Backstreet Boys. And then I did that instead, and it was way more fun. But that company was co-founded by 2 women who were running Backstreet Boys AOL like fan zines, fan chat rooms on AOL. Some of you don't know what that is. That makes me feel really weird. Basically, they'd been doing fandom for online as long as you could do fandom online. And they're sort of this like weird, I would say, underground network of girls who have helped girls through fandom, through hiring each other. Like, for instance, we hire a bunch of fangirls of like artists that we run the socials for because I know who knows what's going on. I'm in their Twitter mentions every day, so I know who knows what's up. So just remember, like, to be visible and not to be afraid to, reach out and, make new friends.
I think it's very important to reclaim the title fangirl. Like, we are very powerful, as Harry Styles knows and says.
It's true.
But I will say, like, I grew up and it was not a diss, but it wasn't viewed as the same. There was some embarrassment attached to it. And I feel like that's one of the coolest things that I've seen being in this industry is that shift. But also, Adam, going back to a few things that you said, and all of you really, like, I got on Instagram a year ago, and it wasn't too late. It's helped my career massively. But I want to ask, the Instagram DM, if someone's trying to get into this industry, just a quick yes or no vibe check from all of you. Do you appreciate it? Is there a good way to do it?
You mean if someone's looking to get into the industry and they look for sort of advice through
Yes.
DMs?
Yeah, or even a job, the direct, like, hey, I want to work with you, I want to work for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say just because I definitely understand that struggle of being a college student, whether a college student or not, just understanding the struggle of trying to get into this industry but not having connections or experience is the hardest thing. So I think if you see someone on the internet and you love what they're doing, it never hurts to reach out and connect with them.
Ever. And when you do reach out, as much as you want to say that you are a fan, you are reaching out to somebody because you would like to work with them, because you would like to help them. And it's best that you say how you would want to do that. List out your skills, list out what you're passionate about, list out what you're interested in learning, list out if it's somebody that you've been following for a while, notice their accolades, like tell them I really love what you've been doing with this artist and this project. It just shows that you're well informed and that you're reaching out because you want to and not because you're shooting out 50 different DMs to 50 different music industry people with the same message. So it's really important to get personal. I was growing up and it was a time where it was really just cold emailing. It wasn't really Instagram DMs, and it would just be a hi, hello, anything I can do, let me know, link my resume. And for every time I did that, like every 10 times I maybe got one email back, but I would get an email back eventually. You will get a DM back eventually. And you want to be sure that when that does happen, you know what you're signing up for and what you want to learn.
Yeah. For a while, I was actually going over the intern applications at Billboard, and something that you said, Claudia, really makes sense to me is there would be some resumes that were all over the place. Like, I could see they were trying everything, but it was all under the umbrella of music. And to me, it came back to being a fan. I was like, they clearly love the music, and that's coming first. It doesn't matter if they've written one story in their life. Like, we'll give them a shot. Versus I've seen, compared to other resumes that are like sports, entertainment, TV, film, music, beauty, that's also amazing, but it was harder to pinpoint that from the core they loved music.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, that's all why we want to work in music is because we love it. There's an artist out there that inspired you, there's a project out there that inspired you, and to be able to reach out and grasp it is a pretty cool opportunity.
Yeah. Is there an example any of you have most recently of seeing a fan army maybe mobilize in a way that was really productive or cool that you looked at and can take something positive away from?
Hey, y'all, Fifth Harmony's fandom tried to kill me. I ran Fifth Harmony's Twitter for a very long time, and that is the most organized fan base that I've ever seen in my whole life. They would organize listening parties. They would yell at me if they didn't think I was doing promo well enough. They would say that I wasn't doing promo well enough. And so And I'm sorry, you're a harmonizer, correct?
Oh, I am a harmonizer, yeah.
Yeah.
Huge harmonizer here.
I've met more incredible music industry people who liked Fifth Harmony than anything else. Justin Horowitz, Nancy Berman. Like I can name off of my head just a ton of really competent music industry people who got their start from there. Anyway, so that's what I think, like, when I think of a fandom that really impressed me, I always think of Fifth Harmony, number one, because I was scared for my life, and number two, because I know, like, a ton of those people as adults, and I've seen the work that, they've gone to do in the world, which is, quality-wise, much better than what I was doing with Fifth Harmony, so it's really, like, fun to see the growth and see how a fandom can go from blowing up my DMs to blowing up an artist.
I would say an artist has done a great job, an artist and their team have done a great job once it sort of becomes a trend to be their fan online. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I think it's a great thing. And I think the Swifties have definitely done that. I think like Taylor Swift's fandom has grown so much just in the time that TikTok has become popular, because so many people go viral on TikTok now by sharing Taylor Swift videos. Whereas years ago, before TikTok existed, it was pretty much just Twitter where fans could go on and have viral content. But now anybody can post a fan edit about Taylor or go to the Eras tour and post a video from the concert and go extremely viral. And I think that's when it becomes sort of a trend where people are like, okay, it seems really cool to be this artist fan. I want to be part of that too. So I think social media has definitely helped that happen for a lot of artists.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna add, like this week, over the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing some really interesting stuff happen on SZA's front, where her I think generally, right now, things are in an interesting place because fans are very invested in like sales, and like where their artist is doing on the chart position. It's almost like a leaderboard in a way now, and so her fan base is like over the last few weeks kind of been on this onslaught against Morgan Wallen for the #1 song. And it's the first time, we've been working with SZA for, 7+ years. It's the first time they've mobilized like this and have kind of come together for this mutual goal. And it's really interesting because even when they lose, it's been a few weeks, like even when they lose, it's like, all right, back to the drawing board. What next? And they kind of take SZA's lead. Like last week, they had the remix with Doja Cat, and they were like, "All right, we're buying the hell out of this," And today they have the #1 song. So it's really interesting. It's like it's weird because like obviously we do what we do, but then like there's like this whole hive that is at war in a way.
I remember when it was, I think Miley and SZA were maybe like duking it out for #1 on the chart, but I loved because they actually interacted with one another online and were rooting for each other, which you just don't see as often. So I thought that was really amazing and like kind of using one another's fans to help one another in a really nice way. Were you going to say something as well?
Well, just that at the end of the day, it is the community of fans that like really go all out. It's the Taylor Swift fans, it's the Harry Styles fans, it's the Morgan Wallen fans. It's really anybody, and it's the K-pop fans, I think, really brought it to attention first and foremost, because I think prior to K-pop, like when I had a One Direction account, it was about 200,000 followers, and I never felt like it left my bubble. It was an open public Twitter account, and I never had people outside of the One Direction, well, not never, but I didn't really see people outside of the fandom interacting with my account. And then K-pop happened, and that was pretty worldly, and they really took, especially the BTS Army, took a stance on protecting their band wholeheartedly. And I do think it came from the Justin Bieber fans, the One Direction fans that really were at the forefront of social media at that time, the early 2010s. And they wanted to be known that they're here and they're going to do anything for this band and for this group. And before, you could be a silent fan, and now you know where to find other fans. And if you want to talk about something, you want to share something, you can go on Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Reddit, wherever it is, and find other people with like-minded interests and really start to just be excited about something together. That's the whole point of being a fan, is that it's meant to be inherently fun. And just to be able to do that on a public forum and invite other people in, show other people what you guys got going on. It's something that I think it's not, you can't just fake that. You really can't.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask you, Adam, is you're a fan with fans at this point. So how do you balance that? Because we see it every day. So many people are trying to do that on TikTok. But how do you, not lose sight of the reason you got into it, the people that you love and want to support, while you also have people who are loving and supporting you?
Honestly, I still try to not hide the fact that I am a fan of these artists in my videos, because originally when I started TikTok and gained a following, I think people liked my content because they saw me as a fan, and I still want to show that in my videos. Obviously, it's a little, not too much of that anymore, just because it has grown a lot since then. But I would say just having the idea of the fact that I am a fan of so many different artists, showcasing that in my videos, and that's how I'm able to grow a community. I love being able to read my comments, and people are suggesting videos. I have so many people being like, hey, can you make a video about Camila Cabello? And you know what I mean? Just stuff like that. It makes me happy because I see people in that community thinking of me as a person that they can go to within their fandom, and they want me to talk about their favorite artists. That makes me really happy because that makes me know that I was successful at growing a community online.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest part of this is exactly that. We're all online. Hopefully everyone here loves music, and it's really just combining those two things. Is there anything that you would say for, a fan who is online right now, how they could stand out in a way that isn't just oh, cute, they love this artist, more seriously, wow, they love this artist and they could add this value if I brought them into the team? What's something that would make you pause?
I think it's sort of about if you're running an account for an artist that you like, that's super cool. But if you're organizing with other fans, if you're creating moments, that's really when something goes to stand out. I tend to get to know the fans that know what's going on in the fandom. So if there's drama going on in the boy band fandom, I know exactly which one of them to text to know what's going on and will give me the lowdown. So spying also works.
All right, we have time for some fan questions, I believe. Is there a way to do that best? Awesome. Would anyone like to come up and ask a question? Yeah, come on up.
My name is Ashley, and I'm from Gala. My question is, what's something that you wish someone would have told you at the age of 16? Before even, what's something that you would have wanted to know that you know that now?
If you would be happy doing anything but music, go do that. I'm serious. Truthfully, the job can suck a lot. This is not going to be your 9 to 5. Your personal life suffers. If you want to live rock and roll, live rock and roll. I don't know what to tell you, but if you don't, please go become an accountant. We need accountants.
Oh my God.
I think something I wish somebody would have told me at 16 is that the information you have is valuable. For a very long time, you touched on, being a fan could sometimes be I can't believe that now we say that with, I can't believe it's in my bio that I was a One Direction fan. I truly cannot believe that, because for so long I had suppressed it because so many people had told me, you're going to embarrass yourself. No one's going to take you seriously. You're just a fan. And for such a long time I was but I can't have so much insight and be dumb the way that they're telling me that I am. And finally, the right person paid attention to me, and the right person listened, and the right people now trust my instinct and what it is that I know. And that, I think if 16-year-old me would have been able to see that people actually pay attention to me, I would have been a little bit more confident at the beginning of my music career. At the very beginning, I didn't tell anybody. And it took years for me to be yeah, I was a fan. And it's now really paid off.
Yeah, I'd say I wish 16-year-old me just understood the fact that taking leaps of faith is okay. Because when I was young, I've always wanted to work in music ever since I was a young child. But like I was saying before, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, so I didn't really have any resources or connections there. and I'd always wanted to move to LA, but my mom was like, "Oh, you should just like go to college in Illinois. You'll save so much money." And so, but at the time, I didn't understand, how important it would be for me to start doing connections and like all that at that age. So I wish I understood the idea that you can start doing whatever you want to do when you realize that. I could have started at such a younger age had I known that.
Yeah, and I would just literally echo what Adam said. I think it's really about like not being, scared to fail. I feel like there's so much like, when you're younger, you're like almost like a sponge. You're getting advice from everywhere, your parents, school, friends, whatever. And I would just lean more into like your inner voice for real. It's super like, I know it's like cliche, but I hope that you would lean towards that eventually, but the sooner you do, the earlier you'll be able to fail and learn and kind of get those lessons for yourself. So, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, just what are you guys' like TikTok handles or Instagram handles? Because I wasn't here for like the beginning. If you guys said them.
Not, but I think maybe after we'll have a second.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just add at 16, like the two biggest things for me really quickly is that it's okay to not be connected. I feel like that's a huge deterrent for a lot of people is like, oh, I don't know anyone in the music industry. I'm not even going to try. I didn't know anyone in the music industry and I kept trying. And I feel like now with the way, obviously, the internet works, I sound like I'm 800 years old, but it's just so much easier to know nobody and to shoot your shot. So don't let that discourage you. Another thing, too, is being in music journalism, I thought that I had to have one specific thing that I wrote about and only write about that for the rest of my life, and that's not true. I cover every single genre of music. I cover the industry, the business, things that I don't really even know a lot about, like publishing. But I feel like we all kind of learn on the job every day. And again, that's where like leaning into music fandom plays a huge role in this, is that it's okay if you don't have one thing that you go after. You can go after a ton of different topics, all under the umbrella of music. Is there any other questions from the crowd? If you don't want to use the mic, you can whisper it in my ear. I can ask it. Cool. I think our amazing panelists will perhaps be going somewhere after this if you want to ask them something one-on-one, share information. But seriously, thank you all so much. Like I said from the start, I was very excited to hear your stories. I think you're all amazing, and I'm such a fan. Full circle.
Full circle.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.